The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. I'm a proud pony, parent of a neurodiverse individual. Those are the words that we choose to use in our household. I know you guys have different words that you like to use to describe your relationship to autism, whether you describe yourself as autistic, whether you describe yourself as a parent of an individual, and whatever words, neurodiverse, neurodivergent, whatever words you use on the spectrum, having autism versus being autistic. We accept whatever words you use to describe yourself. That's very important to us here because we feel that identity and how you self-identify is critical. So we always want to be respectful of what you choose. We are live right now. Today is the 10th of March. Can anybody believe that we are already that far into March? And you know what that means? I start to get excited about this time of year because we're about to be in April. And there's a lot of stuff that happens in April. There will be a lot of stuff happening here. I know this because we have already been pre-taping a lot of our shows. You guys, if you've been watching the show, you know we're getting ready to move. Yes, I know why we would move in the beginning of April. And we've done this. This is the second time that we've done this. See, and I should have said 3 years ago, when we signed a lease and it was going to be due on April 1st, I should have said, hey, this is a bad idea then. But here we are. And so we're going to be moving in the next couple of weeks. And so we've had to pre-tape a lot of our April shows, but that actually has been a wonderful thing. We'll be able to give you the schedule ahead of time. Stay tuned. Before the end of the month, we're going to publish our whole schedule for the month of April, and it's just off the chain, you guys. Off the chain. I do want to say we had our auction last week to get rid of a bunch of stuff. We really, I was calling it our garage sale, but it was our auction that we did online through Max Sold. Thank you, Max Sold. And I'm looking around because it's so empty in here. We had several different sets that we were using because we had this big barn of a space here. We're moving to a space that is not as spacious as this. So we were purging furniture and cameras and tripods and all kinds of stuff. What a great thing. And we had such a wonderful time. We met some amazing people, had some amazing people bidding on our auctions, not the least of whom was Caroline Rhea. If you know Caroline Ray, if you know her and love her, the stand-up comedian, she bought one of the things in our auction. We're just so excited. We love her so much. And hoping to connect with her. So anyway, we had a good time, but we've, now we're getting ready to start packing. It's a fun time, but what it means for all of you is that we've got some great shows in the can for you for April. It's going to be really fun. So stay tuned to find out all of that. All right. I mentioned that we're live right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and about a dozen other sites. Our fabulous Chris Desmond is going to show you on the screen some of the ways that you can connect. Now, here's the funny thing. We have 2 YouTube channels. One is Autism Live and the other one is Ask Dr. Doreen. We hope that you are watching our shows because we do video and sound on those shows. And we have a library of 14 years now. Isn't that amazing? 14 years worth of shows that you guys can watch. It's all for free. I'm going to get this sneezes. Now, I think we kicked up some dust in here when we were moving stuff. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Okay, hopefully that's the last of that. Good morning, Raina. So happy to see you here with us today. But what was I saying? Oh, so our YouTube channels. We hope that you check us out on YouTube. My gosh, if you get on our YouTube channels and there's the search button where you can just search on our channel, ask a question. And I bet you somebody has answered it in the last 14 years on one of those 2 sites. So check that out. It's all free. And we're very proud of that we've been able to do that for 14 years, provide answers around the world. Even on YouTube, if you need it translated for you into a different language, you can push the button and tell it what language you want the transcript in. Amazing. Hey, speaking of that, don't forget that in April on Thursdays and Fridays, we're debuting a bunch of shows in Spanish because of our fabulous Chris Desmond. Ooh, I can't wait to hear what you guys think of that. But anyway, so that's the YouTube channels. But we know that most of you are listening in podcast. So we're available as a free download wherever you get your podcasts. We hope that you check that out. If you do, you will see it is free, but you will see that it comes with advertisements, right? You're listening and then they'll break into the show to give an advertisement. I hope you embrace that and go, woohoo, these people paid so I don't have to. If that's frustrating to you because you're doing a whole bunch of other stuff and you like the flow of listening to it without advertisements, we have a quick fix for you. It's just $5 a month. You can subscribe. Go to glow.fm/autism-live. Now, we kind of did this a little bit wrong because it should say Autism Network, but it doesn't. Autism Live. But the truth is you get everything on the Autism Network. You get Autism Live. You get Ask Dr. Doreen and all the other shows that we do. Anytime we do a new show, like for April, we have new programming 5 days a week in April. And that's going to be hard to keep up with. So if you pay $5 a month, it automatically comes to your inbox and it comes free of ads. So we're not trying to gouge you with, $5. We tried to make it as low as we possibly could so that you could get it the way you want it. So there we have it. All right. Have I forgotten anything else? I always like to remind you that our mission here at Autism Network is to provide information and inspiration. And we intend for that to be for that larger autism community that starts with individuals who are themselves on the spectrum, whatever words they use for that. But then we include everyone who loves those individuals. And together we make a mighty group, a mighty voting group who has a say. I do want to give one little bit of information that I've been promising you guys. We have been watching very closely. As you know, the current president has been saying that he is going to sign an executive order to end the Department of Education. We're entering IEP season. I know a lot of you have had big concerns. We don't know what that will do to IEPs, but we have concerns, right? But we have not been seeing that executive order happen. And I found that very interesting. Like maybe they're hearing from all of us that this is not something they want. And then I found out this morning that there has been a bill, and it was entered the last day of January. This is how long ago this is. There's a bill in the House of Representatives that is exactly to end the Department of Education. And here's the thing, you guys, that's very quiet. I hadn't seen that in the news, had you? But it has 31 co-sponsors. So there are 32 representatives in the House of Representatives who have already said we sponsor this bill. It's only been introduced. It has not been voted on yet, but I would encourage you to reach out to your representatives and let them know if you have a concern about that. I feel that there is this moment in time where they're kind of seeing, does anybody care if we end the Department of Education? If you do, I want to encourage you to reach out to your representative. Okay. Saying good morning to Raina. Saying good morning to Manish. So thrilled that you're here with us. Parker. Parker says we will have to call Bonnie out of retirement to do this. Due to this. It's very possible. In fact, all this week, I've been like, I got to put a call into Bonnie. Bonnie is the special education attorney who is retired, who was a part of our show for a really long time. You can find all the segments that Bonnie used to do on our YouTube channel. They're under a playlist called Know Your Rights. So thank you for evoking Bonnie. Parker, she will love that. And you're right, we do need her. We need her now. All right, so today's show is a parent-to-parent talk, and it's about burnout. Now, I want to say that anytime I get a lot of questions that parents will ask me, whether it's in a private meeting with them or when I'm talking someplace or here on the show or somebody emails me. Anytime I get 3 people in 1 week asking a question, I go, oh, we should do a show about that, But we also take requests. If there's a request that you want me to talk about, or a guest that you want, please let us know. Sometimes it takes us a minute to make that happen, but because we have a month of shows pretty much already planned for April. But I appreciate your comments and your questions. But last week I got several comments. I think it was way more than 3 about burnout. And burnout can take many different factions, but in particular, people were asking about caregiver burnout. That's a very specific kind of burnout. So that's what we're going to talk about today. 10 or so, I always come up with another before I'm done, tips for burnout. And I think for this one, Chris, I think we'll go through fast and then go back and elucidate on all of them, because I think some of you are in a hurry and may need it quick. Okay. So the first thing is my disclaimer always is you got to let go of the guilt. Sometimes we think if I take a break or if I'm not going full tilt, that it's not going to be good for my loved one. You got to let go of that. You got to let go of that. That's not a useful thought. We're going to come back to that in a minute. Let's hit it. Number 1, be honest with yourself and at least one other person. Key, right? Number 2, prioritize rest and sleep. Yes. Number 3, fresh air and exercise during the daylight hours are absolutely key. Let's talk about that. Number 4, find respite. Ooh, we're going to give you some tips for that. Number 5, identify one activity that brings you peace and happiness. I'll have lots to say about that. Number 6, make a play date with yourself. Oh, wait till I tell you about that. Number 7, I can't read it. I'm blind. Take a 30-second vacation. Thank you. I need to make my fonts bigger. I'm losing my eyesight. Okay, number 8. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I have no idea. Oh, garbage. Remember, garbage in, garbage out. We'll talk about that in a minute. Number 9, be willing to say no. I heard my husband do that this morning. I was so proud of him. Number 10, start meditating. Don't worry. I'm going to help you to figure this out. It's not like in the picture. Number 11, remind yourself of your why. And did I put a 12? I did. Reward yourself. Okay. I think that's it, right? That's the last one. Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to the beginning now. Let's talk about the guilt, because this is part of the whole thing, right? I always say when I'm talking to groups about being a parent and how much I'm driven by guilt. I think that there is probably, and write in and tell me if I'm wrong or if this identifies you too, that there's one moment where a lot of us, myself, I'm going to speak for myself, where I think for me, there's more than one moment where I felt like I let my son down. This is emotional. This is me being as honest as I possibly can. When he was little and he was learning, and every day he was making progress, and then it stopped. And that was concerning to me. I didn't understand why things had stopped. But then things started to go away. He had been talking in full sentences. And we were living in this very small condo. He didn't even have his own bedroom, but there was a little alcove space where there was a desk that opened out and I could write. And he would come over, pudgy little elf that he was, and he would go, "Mama, what doing?" Right? When I was working on the computer, and I would pick him up and I would put him on my lap and I would show him, he was little, and I would show him how to use the mouse. And, it was the beginning of playing on a computer. But then one day he came in after things had stagnated. He came in and he said, there was no gesture. And he said, "Mama doing?" And I remember thinking, I didn't really glom on to the fact that there was no gesture, but there was no what. And I panicked. I was like, where did the what go? And I really literally panicked. And within 24 hours, we were at the pediatrician and I said, "What's going on? Like, where did the what go?" And she shamed me. And she said, "Oh, you late in life mothers. And, it's you're worried about everything. He's already speaking in sentences. He's a year and a half. When he's 2, he'll be talking in full paragraphs." And in that moment, my gut was screaming, no, something's going on here. But in that moment, I had choices, right? I could listen to her, and she was an expert, and I liked her story better. In her story, he was fine. I was the one who was not right. I liked that because I thought, I'll take one for the team, right? But my mother's instinct was over here screaming, and I turned to it and said, "Shut up." And we lost 6 months of what could have been very helpful to him because I kept saying, "Shut up, shut up, shut up, listen to her." And I still feel guilty about that. And it's not the only time, but I feel, and I don't know, a lot of parents, when I talk about that, go, "I know what you mean." Because we make a decision. When he finally was diagnosed, I was like, that's it. I'm going to listen to my mother's gut, and I I'm never going to have him be behind because I wasn't paying attention. But that guilt, it's like it goes into different places, right? And I heard a dad say, I feel guilty if I sit and watch a football game, because if every waking moment needs to be an educationally rich environment, then I'm not allowed to watch football. And I was able to say to him, oh, no. We talk about every waking moment needs to be an educationally enriched environment, but that doesn't mean it needs to be you. If you think you're the only person, let me tell you, you can't, because your child needs so much. It can't be just you. It literally cannot. You cannot be awake 24 hours a day, right? You have to get help. And you've got to let go of the guilt. And by the way, there's a way that you can watch football with your child and make it an educationally enriched environment. There's all kinds of things that you can teach. But also, as a parent and as a person, you're entitled to whatever makes you happy. And if watching a football game makes you happy, you need to be doing that, because you need to model that behavior for your child. And you need to be able to come back to your child refreshed. We have seen it all too often. What happens when a parent doesn't give themselves break? Well, that's the very definition of on your way to, or, being in burnout, because you get to a point where you cannot get any further. So when you're at the point where you're like, I need a break, you have to separate that from feeling like you're not doing 100% for your child. It's a really dicey little moment, right? But I'm here to tell you that if you don't go and refresh your battery, you will have nothing to give your child. You will run yourself so ragged that you haven't anything left to give them. And not only that, then you get sick. We've seen this happen to so many parents. And, I know I have done this to myself. I made myself sick because I would not take a break. Do not be me in this respect. Let go of the guilt and factor it in and say to yourself, I'm doing this for myself, but I'm also modeling this behavior for my child so that they know how to take a break too. And Parker wants to know, does that include group home workers and school workers? It really does. It really does. You cannot be a caregiver on any level and just go and go and go without getting to burnout. And when you're at burnout, you're one step away from being sick and you aren't productive. You really aren't. You're not really giving your all. You've got to factor in taking a break. Good morning to Autism Journey with Elijah. And Parker says, make things fun. That's advice I give to people. Absolutely. You can do that, but you've got to take a break too. You have to, and you got to find the way. And that's really what this presentation is about. Okay. So let's go to number 1 here. Be honest with yourself and at least one other person. Sometimes we lie to ourselves, right? And we go, oh, it's not that bad. It's okay. It's going to be okay. Whatever is kicking your can today, whether it's that you just feel like you got nothing left to give, whether it's you feel like you can't go on. I'm hoping that you're not at that point, but if you are, you got to start with being honest with yourself. Whew, it's hard. It's really hard, right? But first you have to be honest with yourself, and then you got to be honest with at least one other person. And, it's really up to you who you decide to be honest with. And if you find you don't get a caring reaction from that person, I want to ask you to please tell somebody else. But it's one thing to be honest with yourself. But I find that if we are not honest with at least one other person, we kind of just like glom onto the shame and the grief of it ourselves, and we don't feel the relief, right? I've done this myself and I've heard it from other people. The moment that you are honest with yourself, and I call it telling on yourself, you go to your significant other or your bestie friend or someone who it could be a total, like almost stranger, somebody who lives far away. Find a support group, find a therapist. Now they have better help. My goodness, you can get on the phone with a therapist later on today, right? But be honest with somebody. Yourself first and somebody else. Then It always is better. It's like we all have dark closets, right? With our thoughts and whatever. And when you put a flashlight in them and you go with somebody else into that dark space, I don't know, it's always easier. And you find, oh, they didn't judge me for it. I guess I don't have to judge myself for it. And then you can start to think about, okay, what can I change? What do I have control over? What can I do? Or if you have no control over any of it, that you can take a breath and say, okay, it's not ideal, but here we are. But a lot of times there's movement in that. It allows you to take a breath. It allows you to change your mind. It allows you to be willing to do something different, right? So huge, but be honest with yourself and at least one other person. Let's go on to number 2. This one is key. We have to prioritize rest and hopefully sleep. Sometimes you can't sleep, and so you got to go for rest. If you go 100 miles an hour, 24 hours a day, the wheels are going to come off. It's just going to happen. None of us are capable of doing that. So you got to prioritize rest and sleep. I always refer to when we were starting services at CARD and they were saying to me, what's important to you? What do you want to do? And I like, what are the top 3 things? And on my list, one of them was that my son was hitting his head on the kitchen floor and I was afraid he was going to do brain damage. Now, to me, that was the most important thing, right? But like number 3 on the list was he's not sleeping, which means I'm not sleeping. And the only way I can get him to sleep is by driving him at 3:00 in the morning in the car until he goes to sleep. And I started to fall asleep the other day and almost crashed the car. To me, that was 3rd place after the hitting his head on the kitchen floor. And what CARD said to me is, first, we're going to work on the sleep. And I was like, what about the hitting the head on the kitchen floor? And they said, you aren't equipped to do the intervention that we need to do for the head banging because you have not had enough sleep. And I'll tell you something. I was not being honest with myself about that. I was like, I'm sure I can handle it. I was a hot mess. A hot mess. Because when we don't get enough sleep, we are not capable of doing other things. But prioritizing rest and sleep, my goodness, I still struggle with this, you guys. I don't know about you. I'm telling on myself right here to a lot of people. I still struggle with this. Man, I have been so tired this last week between all the physicality of the moving and all the other stuff going at home, and I'm gardening. It's a lot of physical, and I'm not as physical anymore. Trying to be. But I'm tired. And last night there was the whole time change and I didn't get enough sleep last night. And last night I was like, I got to go to bed. And my husband was like, it's 9:30. And I said, I know, I need rest. And that's a very rare thing for me to go, I got to do this. I'm always trying to push through. But this is key. This is important. Dr. Grampiche says this to me all the time. I know that it's critical. I see my husband do it. He goes to bed and he's, and he prioritizes his sleep. For some reason, I think I need to be taking care of the world, not prioritizing sleep. And especially when my son was younger, oh my gosh, I would never have dreamt of going to sleep. Even if my husband was awake, I would never have dreamt of going to sleep before him. But I'm telling you, in order for everything to start to be better, this is ground level important stuff. And it doesn't have to be sleep, but there has to be rest. And if that means trying to lay down with your child or asking a friend or a neighbor, can you watch my child for an hour while I lay down? Sometimes you have to be willing to ask other people. And if you have a significant other who is raising this child, tag teaming it. But if you don't, you have to be willing. I know so many of you are doing this on your own. But even if you have a different person for every day of the week that you say, can you, come over and just hang with my child and watch them while they sleep so that I can take a nap. Whatever you have to do, because all of the other things on this list are going to be easier or more possible if you do this one. Okay? Some of the things on this list are going to be too much if you don't have this one. Okay. Autism Journey with Elijah says, oh goodness, the time changed and now kicked our can. kicked all of our can, right? It was rough this morning. It really was. Yesterday was rough too, all day. They said, me too, regression in sleep with my kiddo. It is rough lately. I'm sending you a hug. Run him like a dog today, and so that you can all sleep tonight. Rosetta, thank you. Rosetta, we got to have you and Tom back. I hear you guys are close to getting married. Well, I'm so excited for you. And she says, keep up the good work, Autism Live. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to number 3. This is the other part of it. I was just saying, run him like a dog during the day. But this is important for our kiddos, and it's important for us. This is one that you absolutely can do with your child. Fresh air and exercise during the daylight hours. And I'll tell you, it just feels like another thing on the to-do list, right? Everybody take a breath. You know, I was just having the conversation this morning with a colleague who I will leave them unnamed, but we were talking about the fact that we've been trying to up our exercise routines and just how it seems so insurmountable before you start doing it. But once you do it, you go, oh, this really isn't that hard if I'm sensible about it, and that it helps. I was saying this morning that during COVID, when we were, really locked in our houses, we bought a treadmill. And, my son was 16, 17 when this was all going on. But, he would get on that treadmill. My husband and I would walk, and I would go, my goodness, I feel so much better. And I'm so much more level emotionally, right? I was owning that for myself. But we saw for our son, man, what a difference it made for him to get on that treadmill. And he would run. In the beginning, he would walk, but then he would run, and he felt better. And he was more emotionally, down the middle. So now the fresh air part is important too. I keep reading all these things about the benefit of walking. It doesn't have to be aerobic. You don't have to be running anywhere, but walk with your children. Go to a park and walk around the park, however many times. But you will find that you will feel better, and that you'll sleep better, they'll sleep better, and it gives you, and it might be, I was going to say it gives you a little bit of a vacation we're going to talk about that in a minute. And it might be that you're not able to let go of all the things that are going on in your mind, but you're physically doing it. It might allow you to see it in a different light, but it's critical that you got to move your body a little bit, or you become locked up. So get out there. Our kiddos are almost always vitamin D deprived. So being out in the daylight hours can really help with that. Obviously, if they're going to be out for very long, you want to put sunscreen on. Although the doctors tell me that for the first 10 minutes, you shouldn't put sunscreen so that they soak up the vitamin D, then put the sunscreen on. It's hard to remember 10 minutes in. Set your phone, a timer. We don't want your kids getting sunburned and being exposed to things that can make them more likely to have skin cancer later on. But we also don't want them to be vitamin D deprived. It's a hard thing. I do your research. You decide what's best for you, because I don't know, not a doctor, right? But these are the things that I hear them say. Let's move on to number 4. Oh, yeah. This is big on the to-do list, and this is a huge hump to overcome, but it's finding respite. So let's define respite first. Respite is time when you get a break from caregiving. This is not for you to go grocery shopping. This is not for you to go to work, right? As much as sometimes those things can feel like a break from being a caregiver, it's not the same thing. This is really a break for you. Because if you think about it, when you're at the grocery store, you're still taking care of people. When you're at work, often you're taking care of people. You need a break. There is funding for respite almost in every state. If you don't know what the funding source is in your state, I encourage you to call 211. Now, when you call 211, you just pick up your phone and hit 211, right? Usually it's people at the United Way who are answering the phone. Highly trained people. I don't know that that's in every state, but in almost every state. They're highly, highly trained people. Let's also remember that they are trained to the point where they are mandated court reporters. So if you say to them, I want to kill my husband, right? And you're speaking hyperbolically, and you're a passive person and you would never kill your husband, right? They're not going to take it that way. They are going to dispatch police to your house thinking that you're about to kill your husband. Right? So don't speak hyperbolically to these people. If you can call them and say, I have a child on the spectrum. I need to find out about respite, right? But don't say my child is driving me crazy. Don't say stuff like that. You say what you mean and mean what you say when you're on the phone with these people. But they will be great if you say, I'm looking for respite. I really, need to take a break every once in a while. I'm told that my state probably has a respite program. Now that person goes and looks for you to find a respite program. That's 211. You call 211, but don't speak hyperbolically with them. Autism Journey with Elijah says, Shannon, I am offered respite and they give me 600 hours a year. I personally have trust issues and I am learning through it. I get really close to calling them and saying I need help, but my insecurities take over. Truly, I do need respite though. Yeah. And thank you for bringing that up because I think this is most of us. Now there's some workarounds. In some states, they have agencies because there are some people who are like, I don't have trust issues. I'll call because respite, you can be in the house. Did you know that? For respite, in most states, you can be in the house. You don't have to leave the house, but you get to go in the other room and take a bubble bath or lay down and read a book. But you're in the room and you can have a baby monitor on where you're hearing everything. Now, is that the best respite in the world? It's not 100% respite, but it's a whole lot better than just saying I'm not going to do it. And what you might find is that the 20th time the respite worker comes, you're like, I trust them enough, and you find you go to sleep. You know what I mean? It's better than nothing. But the other thing, most states have a thing where they know that we're controlling and paranoid and cautious. These are our children, for heaven's sake. I'm not letting some stranger walk in and take care of my child. I need to know that they're trained, yada, yada, yada. Well, but there are some respite programs where you get to choose the person. So you could interview people, or you could hire a friend. Or you could hire another mom who has kids with autism that you go to the park with all the time. But most respite won't allow you to, they won't pay you or they won't pay a family member, right? That's the rule here in California. But they'll let you hire a friend. So when Jem was little, I hired a friend that I knew, and so whatever works for you, just don't, I think, we just told on ourselves. You just told on yourself and I just told on me. I was not going to let a stranger. But then can we start to see that there might be something else that works, somebody that you would trust. And if you had the baby monitor and you stayed in the house in the beginning, at some point you might feel comfortable enough to go, no, I'm going to go. I also had, before I knew that I could pay somebody, I had 2 college friends that I trusted implicitly that had been, I'd known them for however many years, and I had been around them with my son. They had seen a lot of things that we were doing and I trusted them implicitly. And they would come and I would go to the little scrapbooking place around the corner that had an open thing where I would take the scrapbooks, and for an hour, it was just an hour, I would sit and work on the scrapbooks. And it was pictures of my son and I was commemorating things. And I have those scrapbooks to look back. And it was good for me because I was saving his childhood, right? And books for myself. So I felt like I was still doing something for him, but it was respite for me. It was a creative outlet and it was really good. So don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on the system. Let's find you a way that respite will work for you. And if it has to be that you are sitting on your bed in the bedroom, watching them on a baby monitor, that's okay in the beginning. It's okay in the beginning. I think over time, maybe you will grow to trust them. She says, thanks for the baby monitor idea. I never thought of that. Oh, I had baby monitors. Oh, yeah. And can I tell you, because I have people coming into the house working with him that were, now they call them behavior technicians, but they were ABA therapists at the time. And anytime somebody would come in that was new, I would say, I have baby monitors that are hidden. I'm watching you in the other room. So don't say or do anything you don't want me to hear. And I loved that because that was me being honest. I wasn't trying to catch anybody doing anything. In fact, I wanted to do the exact opposite, prevent a circumstance where somebody would feel like they could. So I would say to them, just know I'm watching and listening. Don't do anything you shouldn't do. I know how to dial 911. And we were very successful. Right? You know what I'm saying? It's okay. Do what you have to do. But use some of those 600 hours. Oh my goodness, you need it. You need it. By the way, they can be in the other room playing and you could be baking if you want to, or blogging or vlogging or whatever you want to do, right? It's all good. But you need it. Everybody needs respite. And usually there's a bank of hours. You have it. Take advantage of it. Okay, let's go on to number 5. Identify one activity that brings you peace, happiness. So in the beginning, for me, it was that scrapbooking. I remember one of my friends turned to the other one and she was like, what are you going to go do during this time? And I said, I'm going to go scrapbook. And the one turned to the other one and said, if ever there is a time when I need a break and I take that break to go do scrapbooking, please feel free to smack me. And what the funny thing is that later she really got into scrapbooking. It's addictive. Now we tend to do those things online. But what's the thing that brings you happiness? I know one mom of a child who's very profoundly affected by autism, and running is her thing. And she gets up every morning at 5:30 in the morning and she runs like 10 miles a day. And she says, Shannon, I get it worked out there. And then I come back and I am there for him. But that is my time. Don't anybody try to take that away from me. And she gets antsy. If it's like really bad weather, doing it on the treadmill, not enough for her, right? She's got to get out there and have the road underneath her feet. If you asked me to run 10 miles a day, let me tell you, you'd have to have some sort of weapon and be threatening me. That wouldn't be my thing. This is why it's got to be something that's personal and brings you peace and happiness. For some people, that's organizing things and cleaning. For some people, that's scrapbooking or doing something creative. Sometimes for me, it's just learning the words to a new song that I like. Boy, that gives me a break. I don't know why. Some people, it's driving. What is your thing? Some people, it's reading. Some people, taking a bath. Some people, and I want to say a lot of people are driven by helping other people. That's not what this is. You can go and do that, and that can bring you peace and happiness, but this has got to be something that goes this way, right? Something that is for you, not for anybody else, that makes you super happy. Singing in the shower. Yeah, somebody said 10 miles, holy cow, I could never make it. You and me both. I would be laying down on the road crying before we got to a mile because that's the shape I'm in right now. I'm working on it. Work in progress. But for that mom, boy, that she said, I get an endorphin high from it. I come back, I'm okay. And that she's tried doing 8 miles, it's 10 miles. 10 miles is her, tops her off and she's good. And she's somebody who can do that in under an hour, I think. For me, that would be forever. Forever. But anyway, you got to identify the one thing that brings you peace and happiness. And let's be honest, when you're overwhelmed and sometimes you've been through some trauma and a little bit of depression sprinkled in, sometimes it's hard to identify one thing that really could bring you peace or happiness. Or sometimes it's a thing that, the scrapbooking, you got to have your supplies and you got to, and it's this whole thing, right? It takes effort to be able to do it. So you want to be thinking about what is feasible. Like, I love gardening, but if it's that first you got to dig up the plot and you got to do all these things before you get to it may be too much right now, right? Maybe it's that you buy one new pot and one thing of potting soil and you put the thing in the pot, right? So that you get to the reinforcer. Don't give yourself an activity that has 32 steps before it that will take 6 weeks, right? Find something that you can actually do because you need to go do it. And it might be, we were just talking about Joanne Lara the other day. Her thing, She would work so hard for this community. Oh my God. And then she would take one afternoon a week and she would go sit in a movie theater and see a double feature. Very few people knew that. She would take off her shoes. She would have her thing of popcorn. She liked to sit on her feet because she was a dancer and had good knees. And she would sit and watch 2 movies back to back. And it was her thing to sit by herself, nobody with her, in the movie theater, so she wasn't responsible for anybody else, right? Drinking her drink and her popcorn, and she was a happy, happy camper. And that's what she would do for herself. So what's your thing? What's your thing, or what can you identify as your thing? And then you got to go do it. Even if you only do it for 10 minutes and maybe, you're like, yeah, but it doesn't bring me that much joy. You got to make yourself do it. Sometimes you got to prime that pump, right? We have certain chemicals in our brain, the serotonin, that if we haven't done this enough, like we may not get the buzz from it the first time, but you got to do it. You got to make time for yourself to do that. Okay, let's go on to number 6. So you make a play date with yourself. And, I hope with your kiddos, you're doing play dates. And I hope with your kiddos, we talked about this the other day, that you're having them help plan them. And you're learning and reminding yourself about what goes into planning a play date, and you're teaching that to your child. Now you got to do it with yourself. You got to make a date with yourself and think like it's a date, like what would make this person happy? Like, do I, when I'm at the grocery store, do I need to pick up the drink that I'm going to take to the movie theater like Joanne Laura did? What are you going to do? But make a play date with yourself and treat yourself like another person that you want to be kind to. I don't know if you guys have seen it. The new show on Netflix was With Love, Megan, from Megan, Duchess of Sussex. And I got a little addicted to it this weekend because it's a little much, right? Because she's constantly doing things for somebody else to make them feel welcome in her home. And a lot of it is, she says, elevating it. You can make a grilled cheese sandwich, but elevate it by sprinkling some flour sprinkles on it. It's a little much, but I so enjoyed it because it was about caregiving. And there was one episode, I don't remember who the person was, but she was talking about how this person taught her every day when you're washing your face before you go to bed to not just mumble through it, but to be mindful while you're doing it, because you would do this for somebody else and go, I'm taking care of myself right now. And be mindful of it. Well, all the things that you would do for somebody else, now do it for yourself. Make a play date for yourself and think, what would make me happy? What would be really fun? And it's going to be different on different days, but make a play date with yourself. If you've been wanting to, oh my gosh, for years, I said I wanted to try doing pottery. And my husband a couple of years ago gave me for my birthday a month worth of pottery classes. And I was so excited to go. And it was like making a date with myself. Shannon really likes pottery, so we're going to try this. Now, I want to say the first couple of weeks, I was so bad at it that it was really kicking my keister, and I was like, oh no. And then I kind of got it in week 3. I love it now. I absolutely love it. Make a play date with yourself. Decide what you're going to do. Surprise yourself. Get yourself an art class, or go get a facial, or, it doesn't have to cost money. It can be make a picnic lunch for yourself and go sit outside and have the picnic lunch for yourself. But make a date with yourself. And it's okay for your child to see that you're doing it, because what you're teaching your child is, I respect myself. This is how much I want you to respect yourself later on. We're modeling the behavior of taking care of ourselves. It's hard. It's hard because we're so used to doing it the other way, right? Number 7, take 30-second vacations. Okay, let's take a 30-second vacation right now, right here with us. I want everybody to, if you're someplace where you can and you're safe, put your feet flat on the floor, put your hands someplace where they're comfortable, and if you can, close your eyes. Close your eyes, and in your own time, take deep breaths in, deep breaths out. Sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I forgot what it felt like to take a deep breath, right? Take the big deep breath in, big deep breath out. And I want you to picture a place of peace. Is that the beach? Is it sitting under a willow tree? Is it hearing water close by? What is your ideal place? Keep breathing in and out. And hang in this place for 10 seconds. Deep breath in, deep breath out. We can do this whenever we want to. It's absolutely free. It's been shown to lower blood pressure and to help you relax. Now that's like 30 seconds. So I want you to, if you want to, stay with your eyes closed, keep breathing, but otherwise come back and realize this is available all the time and you can picture whatever you want to picture. There was a period of time, I think it was after I had started doing the radio show, that I was just very aware. I heard about all these moms that were getting into car accidents with their children. And I was almost one of those moms. Fortunately, I guess, a police officer made me pull over and gave me a ticket. But there was a day when there was just a lot going on for me personally, and a lot was going on with my son. He was taking off his shoes and throwing them at me while I was driving from the back seat. He had gotten himself out of his 5-point harness. He was, like hitting me as I was driving. My wonderful, beautiful, fabulous son now. But I turned to get off the road that I was on because I needed to find a place to park. But I went over a train track when I was not supposed to. Like, how lucky am I that we're all alive? But the police officer pulled me over. By the time he got there, I was sobbing. And he could see my child hitting me. He still gave me a ticket. I tried to tell him he was out of his, no, I still got the ticket. That's okay, because it probably saved our lives. But then I was talking to somebody about it. I was like, well, I'm hearing about all these moms that are getting into car accidents with their kids. And they were saying, it's absolutely critical that you respect the space when you're in a car, that you're not trying to do 18 things. And I said, oh, good, as a mom, you're always doing 18 things. And they were saying that if you start a ritual, that, it's sometimes very hard to get your child into the car seat. But if you start a ritual with the child where, for some kids, you have to hand them something, you have to have music on, whatever, the ritual for them, and you get them in their harness, right? And there are things you can do to prevent them from getting out of the 5-point harness that I learned. But then you get in the car and you put on your seatbelt, and this is the moment where you take a 30-second vacation. Even if it's just that you take 3 deep breaths, inhale, exhale, studies have shown that you're less likely to get into an accident because of stress. Seems pretty important, right? And this is something I started doing. Every time I would get in the car, I would get him in, and I would do it very loudly so that he would hear and that he would also do it. We would get in, put on our seatbelts, deep breath in, deep breath out. And even if that's all we could do, but sometimes I would stop, close my eyes, and picture myself in my ideal place, right? Because it was worth saving our lives over. Do you know? But this is available to you whenever you need it. You can stop, breathe, and picture yourself someplace else, wherever it is that you're longing to go to vacation. And that's different for different people. But give that to yourself. We all want to live longer, and it helps us to focus. Now, we're going to get to the meditation thing in a minute. If you can do more than 30 seconds, that's even better. But we all can take 30 seconds. We can. And we can do it several times during the day. And that's helpful. Okay, let's go on to number 8. Okay, we need to remember garbage in, garbage out. Oh, this is hard too, right? Because if we feed ourselves, and a lot of times you're mashing up and grinding gluten-free, casein-free food for your child, but meanwhile, you've not made anything for yourself. And so you grab nacho chips because that's what's there and it's easy and it tastes good and whatever. But garbage in, garbage out. It's not what's good for us. We need to take this time to nurture ourselves. My suggestion is that if you're, and I'm gonna stop and drink. My suggestion is that if you're trying to feed your child the rainbow, eat what you're made for your child. Now, there's good and bad to this, right? Because maybe you don't like eating the rainbow. But what could you do to make the rainbow taste good? What can you do to help yourself to at least be eating some vegetables and having good stuff go in, right? Because then even if it's only a little bit, then it meters the other stuff that you're eating. Remember, excuse me, you're modeling the behavior. I have a niece who does not like vegetables. And she comes to my house and I make zoodles for myself. And so I'll make the zucchini noodles and I put them in the bowl and I'm having such a good time eating them that she always is like, gosh, I want some of that. And I always say to her, are you sure? Because I don't think you're going to like the zoodles. And the first year that we did this, she was like, oh, it's zucchini. I don't like zucchini. Why didn't you tell me? Now, the next year she came back and because they come in the summer and spend some time. And she looked at it and she was like, oh, that looks so good. But I know it's zucchini. And I was like, well, you don't have to have it. And she was like, can I try just a little bit of it? Fast forward. Now she eats it. She comes to my house and says, can we make zoodles? Because I modeled the behavior. Otherwise, she would not grow to be a young woman who had zucchini noodles. You gotta be eating it in front of them and they'll more likely eat it. So it's good for you. You have to fuel yourself. So garbage in, garbage out. Don't put garbage in. We don't want garbage out, right? Be kind to yourself. All right, number 9. Be willing to say no. Oh, for corn's sake, Ethel. Right? I, was in my 40s and had a child, and my much younger niece once said to me, she said, why are you doing that? Why are you? And I said, oh, because they asked me, and I tried to say no. And she's like, no. How are you saying no? What are the words that you're saying? And I was like, oh, I just don't think that's going to be. She said, you didn't say no. There's no in that. And she said, you need to say no. And I heard when she said that, I'm sorry. She said, that won't be possible. That's the thing that she said, that won't be possible. But what I heard was, I'm sorry, that won't be possible. For years, I ran around, and when people would ask me something, I would say, I'm so sorry, that won't be possible. And then she overheard me saying that. She's like, why are you saying you're sorry? You're not sorry. Why are you saying? Just say, that won't be possible. That just won't be possible. And I have to practice it saying at home because I'm so not good at it. But this morning, they were trying to call my husband in and he really couldn't come in, but he almost always does. And he said, oh, I'm sorry, my day is full. He said that I'm sorry. It's very hard for us to not say I'm sorry, right? But you have to be willing to say no. If you say yes to everything that everybody wants you to do, I just want you to picture for a moment all the people you know, and they all want you to do something. And if you were to do everything that everybody wants you to do, would you have any time left to take care of your child? Would you have any time left to take care of you? I'm going to guess no. If I did a third of what the world wants me to do, there would be no time for anything else. No time. No time for me to garden. No time for me to paint. No time for me to write, to do the show, to show up for my husband or my son, least of all myself. I would have no time to go to the bathroom or shower. You just have to be willing to say no. And I try to prioritize things, and I often, I'm not good at the definitive no, but I will say to people, I'm sorry. I'm not taking on anything else right now. I'm not able to do that, right? But sometimes I say, oh, that just won't be possible. Wouldn't it be nice if it were, but that won't be possible. It's hard. Recently, somebody asked me to do something that I was like, oh, that sounds like a whole lot of fun. I can't do that. I can't do that. I don't have the time for that. That's not really what I want to focus on right now. I said, I'm sorry, that won't be possible. And they came back with 13 other reasons why I really needed to do it. And I said to that person, I said, oh, thank you for testing my boundary, because it gives me an opportunity to be very clear that I cannot do that. I'm in a place where I'm trying to take care of myself and I cannot do that. And that person said, oh, okay, I hear that this is a hard no. I'm going to stop asking you. It's hard. It's hard, but you gotta be willing to say no. Autism Journey with Elijah says, me too. I'm working on that too. And look, that's a great way to look at it, is that we're all working on it. You don't have to be brilliant at this. You don't have to get it right 100% of the time. But if you can say no to a couple of things this week, it might give you the time that you need to plan your date with yourself, right? Okay, let's move on to number 10, start meditation. Okay, now for a lot of you, you're like, oh, here we go. I can't meditate. I don't know what that means, right? And there's some great things that you can do. There's a great thing on Calm I think it's in the free section, where they have, it's over many days, great lessons in meditating, because I always thought I wasn't doing it right. If I just spent time with myself and was trying to meditate and having like, Om Mani Padme Hum, whatever, I was like, I'm not getting anything out of this. This isn't right. And they teach you where to lead your mind to so that you get something from it. It's not what you think. So I recommend Calm and other places like that. There's a Headspace, but there's also free things online. Guided meditation. We made a guided meditation for stressed out parents with kids with special needs years ago. It's like a 9-minute thing. I'll see if we can find it. But it's a guided meditation so that you don't have to do anything. You just have to listen, and it's me talking and telling you what to visualize, right? But the point is to give your brain a moment of peace, a moment where it's not responsible for solving all the problems in the world, a moment where you get to focus on your breath, right? It's so worthwhile. They've done studies on this, and that, I was talking about the 30-second vacation and the 3 breath thing. Great start, but there are gates at which, if you invest time in, you get that much more of a payoff. And we've had Anne-Laure Davin on. She does meditation seriously, at least an hour a day. And she says, I don't know how anybody can live without this, because the payoff for her is so great. Excuse me. I can't do an hour yet. Pardon me. But I am told that the research is there that if you can get to an hour, if you can give your brain a break for an hour, that the benefits, excuse me, Chris, sorry. The benefits are like astronomical. And they've even done studies, my friends, about parents of kiddos that are caregivers. And the outcomes are better if the parents regularly engage in meditation. Now, we can ask ourselves, how can that possibly be? But we know that one of the things that helps kids to have better outcomes is having their parents involved with them. But is it a quantity or is it a quality thing? And we know for sure that there's a little bit of both, right? And the quality seems to be that much better if the parents aren't in burnout. And this helps with burnout. So start. Nobody says you have to be, all these years later, I'm not in an hour yet, but it's start. Start with 30 seconds and see where you can get to and see if it's worthwhile for you. I think you'll find that it is. Let's go on to number 11. Let's remind yourself of your why. The reason why you're a caregiver is because your child, you love them so much and they need you so much. And we got to remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. If you run yourself ragged, you won't be there for the end, which means your child may not get where they need to get. So you have to remind yourself what's at stake. So much time we're in the moment. My child needs this right now. Well, we have to be thinking about the long term too. Where are you trying to get to? And remind yourself, that's what's important, and I got to be there. That doesn't happen unless you're taking care of yourself. And of course, the last one, I don't even think I put a 12 on it, but this is key to everything. When you take time for yourself, that is not the reward. Excuse me. That's the commitment. That's the discipline. Then you have to reward yourself for taking the time for yourself. and do it in front of your child because you're teaching them. So if you planned a date for yourself and you successfully took yourself to an art class or the movies or a dance class or on a walk, whatever, that is not the reward. That is the act. Now you have to reward yourself for doing that. And how can you reward yourself in a way that's meaningful to you that is non-harmful? Right? If you're a diabetic and your reward for going on a walk is the mint chocolate chip ice cream, that's harmful, right? For some of you, that's not an issue, right? But for a lot of you, it's an issue, right? For me, that would be an issue. So find a way that is not harming you, but reward yourself. It could be as simple as, throwing your arms in the air and go, I rocked, I did it, I'm amazing, right? If that's enough reward for you to keep that going, fine. But for a lot of us, you need a little bit more of a meaningful reward. Figure it out. How do you reward yourself for taking care of yourself? I think it's the key to the whole thing. I do. And I'm still very much a work in progress trying to figure it out. But I think this is the key. Because a lot of times we think, oh, well, I just had this time off, so that was my reward. No. You take respite, that is what is owed you. In life, you're a person. You're a person. There's a thing that I like to do, which is, because I won't do things for myself, but if I think about maybe a 16-year-old girl that I don't even know, like she's just walking down the street, a 16-year-old girl that's not related to me that I don't know, but what would I want for her? Would I tell her, oh, by the way, you need to work 24/7 and you never get any time for yourself? I would never sign off on that for her. I don't even know her. And I would not sign off on that for her. If she was taking care of her mother because her mother had had surgery and she's 16 years old and she's taking care of her mom, I would say, what an incredible person. What are we doing for you? Do you get a day off? Let me help you so that you can have a day off. I would do that for the 16-year-old girl that I don't know. I need to be that kind to myself. The kindness that I would show to a 16-year-old girl I don't know, I have to be at least that kind to myself. At least that kind to myself. And in doing that, I teach my child, this is how you are kind to yourself. If it's hard to be kind to yourself, decide what you would do for the 16-year-old. Okay, that's our show for today. I have to tell you that we do not have a live Ask Dr. Doreen tomorrow, but we've got a great show coming on Wednesday. I just don't remember what it is. We've got a lot of great shows as we wind out this month, and very soon we're going to have the schedule for April for you. It's going to be, we have one panel that is just, we've got some new research that we're going to be showing you. Absolutely amazing. So let's do the best you can today. Please take care of yourself. As a caregiver, you're one of the most important people in the world. Let's be kind to that person. All right? I will see you guys on Wednesday. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much. See you next time.